Hello everybody, welcome to another video. As we get our art supplies, in this case we will only be using a highlighter and a ballpoint pen. Let's see. How are you guys doing today? Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Saturday or Friday evening, or like dead in the morning for you guys. How are you guys doing today? If you guys will be staying for the lesson, we will be teaching a lesson today. We normally do like lessons on anatomy, lessons on faces, lessons on something, right? So we normally teach some sort of art thing. So if you guys are planning on staying, it's going to be about a 1 hour long lesson. If you guys plan on staying, please click the little share button. The little share button is what allows me to be able to be seen by other people on TikTok. So if you guys want to click that, that'd be fantastic. That will be your entry fee to the lesson. How about that? All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we talked about in the last session. The last one, we talked a little bit about proportions. We have about 51 people in the chat right now, but we have no shares. So let's make sure we click that little share button. Okay. Let's add a live goal. I don't know what the hell that does, but there you go. All right. So we have one share out of 66 people. That's kind of sad, guys. Free knowledge here. Free knowledge. Just click that little button and we'll start in about 2 or 3 minutes. You guys feel free to ask questions about what you guys want to learn. If there's something in particular you guys want to actually tackle today, feel free to let me know. I like art, like participation by you guys. You guys participating in this is what actually allows us to actually build a good, fun community. So, click the little share button and ask me questions. Say Ambutakam. I have no idea what it is, but you got me to say something. Ha ha ha. You are silly. Can you talk about how to make drawing less stiff? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Sure, it was funny. Great. And I shall never answer another question from you now. So, yay. Your joke helped. Ha 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 ha. All right, so what do you do when you're losing motivation when drawing? Okay, that's a good one. Let's start with motivation. And then we'll transition into the other questions. Ooh, drawing bodies. Just go into any of my YouTube videos. Go into my YouTube channel right here, Rodgon the Artist. Click on any video and then just learn about anatomy and bodies and proportions and everything. I straight up teach this on a daily basis. We go over bodies quite a bit. So you guys, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about bodies, go to my YouTube channel. That is the source with all the old streams that we've done, all the old lessons that we've gone through. So if you guys want to learn more about that, go there. But motivation. Let's break it down. Let's break down motivation and what motivation, like how we get motivation. So when we want to learn to draw, when we want to draw, period, right? Let's say you are super excited one day and you just want to draw everything. Okay. You're excited, you are, yay. But at the end of the day, you end up drawing nothing, and you're like super excited to draw in your sketchbook, right? And you're like, you have your sketchbook with you. And then you end up not drawing anything because you had no motivation, because nothing gave you like the instinct to be able to draw, nothing gave you that like, yay, like motivation. Motivation, in my opinion, needing motivation to draw is a big hindrance to your art career, right? Requiring motivation makes you unproductive. If you require it, then you end up not really drawing as much as you can or as you should because you are just not motivated. If you work in any sort of industry in which it requires you to be able to be creative all the time, aka production work, like graphic design, illustration, animation, and anything in between these is going to require you to draw around the clock. You are not going to get a chance to not have creativity. Require 24/7 creativity. This is not necessarily easy to do, right? Being able to be creative all the time is incredibly hard. It's incredibly draining. And at the end of the day, normally when you do jobs like this, you end up not having much energy to be able to go back to your own work and, draw your own things at the end of the day because you'll be drained. You'll be completely drained. So if you want to learn about how to stay motivated through times that are tough, let me turn off this TV show because it's annoying me. If we are looking more into like how you stay motivated, you have to have a mindset. You have your brain. You have to tell yourself, this is my career. Right? Your brain needs to be on the same level as you. If you are telling yourself, I'm not good enough, or I won't post because of this, I won't create because the ducks in the pond aren't necessarily looking at each other, crap like that. Don't feel surprised when a lot of opportunities pass you up because you are essentially blocking yourself from being able to get to the places you need. Motivation is not necessary. Motivation is actually just like the sprinkles on top of your mentality. You need to be able to draw even if you're feeling like shit. If you're just not feeling well and you're feeling drained, that is when you should practice drawing. Why? Because those are the moments that you're going to need to push yourself to be able to do what you want to do. It's not when you're feeling happy. When you're feeling happy, that's just an extra added bonus, right? If you're feeling happy about what you're doing and inspired, then that's fantastic. Drive that thing through, like carry that thing as long as you can. But in the days that you can't, that's when you need to really, really put your brain into it, right? Because that's the moments that you really require help. You don't require help whenever you're feeling great. When you're feeling great, you're just going to like bust out any sort of design and you're going to love it. And you're going to be like, yay, I drew today and I drew awesome. Even if it's like the simplest thing, like a tree or whatever. When you have motivation, you don't need to be feeling good because the motivation will carry you through it. So think of it as like kind of like a happy pill that happens once in a while and it inspires you even more. But outside of that, you need to be able to create regardless of you being motivated or not, because a client's not going to care if you're motivated or not. The client just wants his stuff. The client, the production company, the sales team, whatever you end up like actually having to like answer to, doesn't care about your motivation. They just want you to actually create. So creativity is not linked to motivation. It's just motivation gives you an extra little boom, like a little boost to your actual, brain. Normally, you don't really need it or require it in order to become a productive person in the world of art. So feel free to ask more questions. That was a good one. Thank you. Saw your live a month ago and it have helped me so much. Thank you for your advice, bro. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. All right. If you guys are actually learning something, click this little share button. The little share button is the one that's the little arrow, right? That little arrow helps me. So click it. That little arrow essentially lets other people on TikTok know that I'm here, right? So if we started with like 20 people on the chat, now we have 10 shares and we have 100. So if we share that like 100 times, I'll have 1,000. And if those 1,000 people share, we could easily have like 10,000 people in the chat. What's better, good technique or lots of practice? Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh. Okay, hold on. Practice or technique? Okay, ooh, that's a good one. That's a juicy one. All right, so practice or technique? Well, you need a little bit of both, right? Like you need a nice balance between practice and technique. You need to be able to draw many, many times so you have consistency, but you need to be able to draw with expertise and know what you're drawing so that you can actually put into function all the practice that you're doing. So if you just draw and draw and draw and draw and draw and draw and draw, but you don't really fix your drawing. So let's say you're drawing eyes and you're just constantly drawing the same eye over and over, over and over, over and over. You're going to get really good at drawing that one eye. But if you practice and you tell yourself, ooh, I already got that one, so let's change it up. Let's switch it up. Let's rotate the eye around. Once you actually acknowledge that you have learned one thing and you practice your technique there, then you mark it like, yay, I got it. And then you move on to the next step. If you stay doing the same thing over and over and over, you are never going to progress. Because nonetheless, like we are like folly to this. Most artists are really folly to this. We practice the same thing over and over and over in the hopes that they will cement. But a lot of the times that practice that we have is not cemented in good technique. So we end up just drawing the same boring things over and over. And then you're telling yourself in your brain, oh, that is all I need to draw. So if you repeat the same mistakes without taking time to think about the actual technique, the actual like things that apply to the actual drawings, like if you're still drawing your eyes like a little oval, right? Like that. If that's how you draw your eyes, that's great. That's a nice, easy beginner level technique. As you get better, you should realize that this is an eyeball, and then the eyelid is just going around your eyeball, right? That is better technique. An even better technique is understanding how the folds work, how they curve around a circular shape, and how each one of these elements has depth to it, how the things come out, little parts of anatomy, little overlapping shapes, highlights, colors, blah, blah, blah. That's all technique as well. But in order to be able to get from one to the next, you need to actually start progressing, and you need to think about what you're doing. You need to take notes. Like if you draw an eye, in this case, we're drawing a lot of eyes, but you don't like the way it looks, it just looks wonky, take notes and be like, why does it look wonky? And then go back and try to recreate this until you understand why it looked weird. In this case, the eyelid might have been a little bit too pushed up right here. Right? So note-taking and being self-critical is going to be an incredibly large part of your growth. And no one is really going to give you your answers to any of this, right, or anything of how to progress past a certain point. Most books and stuff like that you see about drawing rehash the same concepts a million times over, right? They rehash how to draw, blah, blah, blah. How to draw. It's the same bullshit that everybody else has been spewing for like 50 years without really explaining to people why they're drawing the way they are. They just tell you, okay, draw this, then draw this, and then draw this, and then you have an eye. Yeah, you cool. Awesome. Now I know how to draw an eye, but how do I apply that to like a general concept of a body or a face? Like just knowing how to draw a face like a little oval is not going to magically teach me how to draw this, or how to draw it in perspective, or how other elements affect it. Now I know how to draw an eye, but I do not know how to functionally put that eye into work. It's like knowing how the car runs, but not knowing how to drive it. Right? Because the face is not an easy thing to draw. The face is an overly complicated set of geometric shapes in a semi-flexible, semi-rigid like structure. So just teaching you how to draw a simple thing like an eye, or let me teach you how to draw a nose. We will draw a nose by drawing a soupy into a soupy. And then we have a nose. No, this does not teach me shit. But if I go, okay, the nose bridge has a little bit of depth. This side right here is a completely different little box. And this side has an underside to it that gives it the nice shadows, as well as the side of the nose. So if we look at a nose, it's more like a little diamond. Right? It's more like a little diamond, top and bottom, and then you add your nostrils on the side. And this has width, right? So if you teach people what they're looking at, how to see it, how to move it, how to progressively learn other angles without me having to be there to teach you, it'll be a lot easier for you to make those click moments like, haha, I got this. This is really great advice. Thank you. Cloud Gazer, how do you feel about Kim Young-yi passing away? Well, he was a fantastic artist. Like, he was just a straight up master at what he did, right? He's one of those people that would just start with a little element, and since he already knew how to map everything out, he would just start going and adding little things to his drawings, creating an entire scene without the need to sketch it out or anything like that. And he would create these amazing, fantastic, like, pieces that would be almost mural-like, right? But he would do it with a brush pen, not with a ballpoint. With a ballpoint, you can still sketch a little bit. With a straight up brush pen, you can't do that anymore. So he would just go in and draw things like flying tigers and like, I don't know, like entire scenes with like subways and stuff like that. And it would just be amazing. So it is a big loss that we lost him. Absolutely. But at the same time, it's also going to be like a martyrdom, right? Like, so he's going to inspire a ridiculous amount of younger people to be able to surpass him. And that is kind of like what happens a lot with the art industry. You have people that are really good, and then you have a younger generation of people that get inspired by them. They inspire to surpass their heroes, and then you end up with even cooler artwork because of it. So even though he will be really sorely missed, he did something for us with his passing that will cement a higher standard of artwork for the rest of us. How can you show how to draw a nose, keep messing up when you're trying to make it not look like what? You draw a nose by the concept of a nose is a basic understanding of your human anatomy, right? It starts with that. So let's say we have a very, very, very basic human skull here. The nose goes into this little gap in between your eye sockets, right? Your nose doesn't just pop out from there, but it protrudes from there. So if we have this from the side, we would have something along the lines of this, right? So if you have your nose and it's coming out of this little hole right here in the middle of your face, all you got to do is draw up to that little point, which could be easily done with a simple sphere, because you can draw a sphere and then just draw up until your nose right there, really easy. Okay, you can add your jaw and your nose and stuff like that later. But if you draw up to here, you can actually map out your eye sockets and your eyes and your nose. And then just connect the shape that you want for your nose to the top and the bottom of that and create your nostrils. And you can actually have a very easy, simple way to create your noses with an anatomically correct structure. Let's read some more comments. Thoughts on AI art? I think I've mentioned this a couple times before, but AI art, it's going to revolutionize a lot of things, right? It's to me, it feels kind of like when Photoshop came out. When Photoshop came out, a lot of people lost their jobs. Lots of people lost their jobs, especially in the printing industry. People that used to do everything that like the fonts do in Photoshop, AI and art in general, especially for production art, is going to shift the paradigm of a lot of things. Mostly, people that don't have original ways of creating their own art are going to be hurt by this. What do I mean by that? If your artwork is not necessarily conducive to being original, and it's mostly just copies of other people's work, you're going to have a very tough time in the post-AI era. Mostly because that computer is going to be able to do what you do much easier. Much cheaper as well. So how do you get through that? How do you like surpass that? And how do we become like people that thrive in this post robot era? And that comes in the form of learning what the tool can do so that you can use it for your advantage. Much like the people that, get left behind through Photoshop and Illustrator and all that stuff. If you keep on going like, ew, that's the only thing, I don't want to, it's change. I don't want to, it's change. Well, then you're going to be left behind by the wave. It's just going to happen. AI art is dangerous. Like, have you seen AI arts on Twitter? Yeah, I've seen a lot of AI art. And let me tell you something. Yes, the people that are creating this type of art may be using references from other people, but at what point do you determine, you as an individual, where do you have the authority to tell someone that what art they're creating is not real art? That is the problematic thing right here. It's not about just being like, oh, well, they're sampling. No. It's about limiting someone's creativity just because they create differently than you. That person uses a computer and words to create, right? So they type in words and then they get their really cool drawing. Chat GPT or whatever. So that person is using their knowledge about wording and about just visualization through words and prompts to be able to get a final piece. You take pictures online and get ideas and references from people like on Instagram and, Pinterest and stuff like that. And then you create your own version of that. Right? Most people don't get their ideas from absolutely nothing. Most people use references. So they reference, but they use words to create their art. You reference, but you use your drawing to create your art. Sculptors do the same thing, but they use their hands to create their art. Wood sculptors, everybody has a different way to create artwork. Just because you don't like it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily happy about it, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean that you have the chance to tell someone that their art is not valid, because now they have a chance to be able to use the skills that they have to be able to create art. These people probably didn't have that ability before. That doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to do it. You just have to learn what they're doing so that you do something different, something more original, something that's going to actually help you progress instead of trying to compete with something that clearly is not going to be compatible with. What do I gotta do to get you to draw Butters? I forget how Butters looks. So I know they both all have super big eyes. Does Butters have a little haircut? I forget. I haven't watched South Park in a while. It looks like a Powerpuff Girl. My problem with AI is that it's not really ethical. Okay, cool. Let's base it on that. Let's base the argument on that, and I'll play devil's advocate here. Okay? Let's say that you say that it's not ethical. Well, I say that since somebody else drew this face before, it's not ethical for me to draw it without putting the name of the artist. Or because I drew this nose that is very similar to Scott Campbell's nose, right? Now I need to cite this as a drawing based on him. So it's unethical for me to be able to even teach you guys because I'm creating artwork that I based on somebody else's work. So that is just irrational. That is just the inklings of somebody like in South Park going, get your car jobs, get your car jobs, it's one thing out of reference and you can only take data. It'd be more. No, the thing is, we as a collective art world have put so much artwork royalty free onto the internet, right? Unless you went and copyrighted every single one of your pieces. Most of the things that we post on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff is free access databases. So sampling from each one of those is our own fault because we decided to put it up there. It's not that you're like magically just like, oh, well, I did this. I drew a Batman. That is my Batman and no one else's Batman. Yeah, did you pay Marvel or DC something? Did you give them royalty rights? No, probably not. You just drew it and then you just went ahead and created it. So if you ever did any sort of fan art, you're essentially doing the same thing that AI art does. You're stealing a concept from somebody else and making your own interpretation of it. So again, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't really necessarily like AI art, but you can't dismiss an art form just because you don't understand it or because it's going to hinder your own artwork and or that it's going to be a more efficient way of creating art than you are. The only issue is that AI art does not... What? My only issue with AI as a designer is that it doesn't use raw skill. Oh, yeah, it does. It's just not using your technique. It's not using your skills, right? It's not using... It's like you'd say a sculptor. A sculptor uses their hands, but they don't draw. Does that make them less skilled than you? They can still create something with it, but they're just not creating what you create, right? A wood builder, a metal like crafter, anyone like that, even some people that just use junk to create things. Is that less of a technique just because it's not your technique? I mean, that's kind of arrogant. That's pretty arrogant to say because these people are using the prompt. Yeah, it might be easy sometimes to just click in a prompt and be like, oh, I want a girl that has this. But no, if you're actually using this as a raw art form and a raw tool, yeah, people can take things into Photoshop and then just change things a little bit and then just make it their own. The ethical part of it comes from you, how you use it, not necessarily how other people will interpret it. It's how you're going to use it because that's just all you can control. You can't control how other people are going to do things. For me, the concept is wild because I have to sit there and come up with concepts. Yeah. So they're doing it easier than you. They're doing what you want easier. So therefore you're mad. It would be like if a person that just started drawing got mad at me for being able to draw this super quick. They're faster. They're more efficient. They know more than me. They can do more than me. So I don't like them. How dumb does that sound? But let's get away from the AI stuff because that's necessarily just like... We can go about hours and hours and hours about this. And I can discuss both sides too. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I'm not necessarily thrilled with the idea of, my graphic design side of my business being replaced by just machine. But at the same time, we can't really, you can't just bash a new art form because it makes yours harder to stand out in. Okay, let's draw some hands. Let's draw some hands because this guy has been asking for hands for like the whole time. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on AI. I see you're getting it. It's not the devil. It's like you still need to have a person there to be able to create the AI generated art for now. For now, once it gets advanced enough, it'll just generate art on its own. But I'd say unethical AI art is more like in line with tracing with... No, it's not. You were approaching this like a person in the 1970s complaining that they can't put their little letters by hand in their newspaper because Photoshop created a typeset setting. Like, that is what you're straight up sounding like. Like, you're sounding like a person that just got left behind by technology and you will no longer be able to create because, they just prompt something and then it makes it better than what I can create. Yeah, then use that too. Use the tool. and then modify the artwork to make it yours. Use it as a base template so you can use that as your own personal reference and then evolve it. Use your skills and imagination to evolve whatever the AI art comes up with. Don't be a relic. Don't be a person that's like, hey, well, I don't like it. Nothing wrong with change. It just happens. We're advancing as a species. So technology is going to advance. Yes, it did not jump for a long time. Like we literally stuck in the same illustration techniques for a very long time, like 20 years, honestly, with little advances here and there for Photoshop and other programs. But like, like the iPad is a fantastic new tool and it lets you draw on a screen. Ooh, so people that digitized artwork back in the day, now they're out of a job. So, should we freak out about that? Yeah, let's draw hands. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Hands, hands, hands. So we talked about hands a little bit earlier. I think we talked about hands yesterday. And hands are mostly misunderstood by a couple things. I still have drawing marks from my hand. The thickness of your hand is about the width of your knuckle, right? Top knuckle, bottom knuckle. It's the same bone. So if we take that into consideration, the width of our hand is roughly the size of a sphere. That is the top and the bottom of our hand, because that's our knuckle. Our wrist at the end of the hand, and then this is our palm. So if we take that, let's look at our hand again. We have the middle knuckle, and then we have that sits right in the middle of our hand. I like this knuckle because it sits right here. No matter where you shift it, it always aligns with the middle of your palm, with the middle of your wrist. So I like to start with that. So that's our middle knuckle. If we look at it from the top, it would be more like this. Okay, this is the middle knuckle. So how many knuckles do we have to one side, to the thumb side? We have one. So let's draw one. How many do we have to the other side? We have two. So let's draw two. Once we have that, we just got to determine how to draw the thumb. If this is the base shape of our palm, right? Then all we gotta do is draw that little section. This little section always reminds me of a gear in a stick shift car, right? So we have the little part that moves, and then we have the little stick, and then we have the top of the stick shift, right? So little part that moves, has a lot of movement. Then you have your little bone, and then you have the top segment of your hand. So if you see it like a stick shift car, it's a very, very cool way, an easy way to be able to mask this in there. So the next thing that always clicks with me is that remember that your knuckles are inside your palm, not outside your palm. Your knuckles are inside your palm, not outside. And even though this sounds weird, just look at your hand again. This is the edge of your palm. Yes, they stick out from there, but it's only about half the knuckle that's sticking out. My knuckle in itself is all this, right? So most of it is inside of my palm. I have remarkably pointy knuckles too, so most people would not have these huge massive ridges. They'd have like a little bit of fat or less of a ridge right here. But your knuckle is inside of your palm. So that is going to come into play when we talk about actual fingers. Fingers are going to be measured from your knuckle to your other knuckle. And I'll explain that in a second. So knuckles go inside. Let's see. The next thing. When you're drawing hands, your hands are not flat. Your hands are not always like this. They bend, they fold, they curve, they have a ton of stupidly large amount of mobility, right? That's one of like our most expressive parts. Like you can have your hand like this or you can have your hand like that. That is a huge amount of flexibility. So how do we approach that without like freaking the hell out, right? Well, I like to make my drawings of my hands more like potato chips. If you guys have ever eaten Ruffles, that is the hand shape that I like to use. I draw the top part of my palm, I draw my knuckle, and then I have the bottom part of my hand. Because the knuckle dictates the bottom part of my hand and the top part of my hand. So once I have that shape, I have the depth of my hand, and I have the curvature that I want. So now one thumb, one finger, two fingers, and then I can start drawing my fingers coming out from there. Into my thumb. Now, that one's kind of a messy look, but if you are actually just drawing for fun, it's very easy to be able to measure out everything that you're going to draw much easier when you understand where things are coming from. Not just from a technique, but from an actual like anatomical standpoint. Yeah, my hands are... I used to do boxing and like a lot, so all my knuckles are like dented and pointy. If I were to PM you, would you be able to show me where my comic can improve and what I do? I take mentoring and I take consultations all the time. All you got to do is contact me so we can book it. Now, consultations are $100 for an hour. So if you are really serious about getting your comic off the ground and you really don't know what to do with it, contact me. I can give you some feedback for free. Like I can just be like, hey, I think you're ready, you're not. But if it comes down to analyzing what you want to do with your thing and helping you through the process, it's going to be more so, that's something that it just like isn't free, unfortunately. Like mostly because I've been burnt before. So I've been like asked before to help out, and then I provide a lot of information to people, and then they go ahead, run it, and then they just tell you to fuck off. So it's like, So I don't do that for free anymore because people are assholes. I literally can only draw Mickey's head and thighs. Where are you located? Right now, I'm located in Scotland. I used to be in California, but I moved because of a very lovely woman that decided that she wanted to try to have a life with me. So I came over here, and I am completely smitten, and I love her very, very much. Her name is Vicky. And she has a bunch of piercings and tattoos. And she's lovely. I'm sure a lot you'd have to say would go over my head. I'm just trying to realize the idea. But if you have like a question, just feel free to message me over on Instagram. I'll answer whenever I got a chance to. But like, I might not be right away, but I'll be more than happy to respond to you. What about finger placement? Ooh, okay. So fingers, right? fingers, the wrist. So first things first, when you draw your palm, split it in 4. That's going to make your thumb be able to be drawn incredibly easier in the right place. Divide it in 4, the bottom fourth is going to be where your thumb comes out from. Perfect. That's the thumb. The thumb is relatively easy. Let's draw our middle knuckle. Now, fingers, look at them like this, right? If you take a finger from the bottom of the knuckle to the top of the hand, it correlates to the top of the knuckle and the bottom of the wrist. So your fingers are pretty close to that same measurement. So a fully extended finger will be about the size of the hand, considering that it's going to overlap a little bit with your wrist, with your palm, because your knuckle's inside. Okay? Now, how do you divide these guys? It's actually really simple. You split this in half, because from here, the bottom of your knuckle to this knuckle is going to be the same length as from the bottom of this knuckle to the top of the finger. So this measurement, boop, boop, will be the same as this. And then since you have 2 segments in this top part, you just split that in half. And now you have a perfectly shaped finger with the right proportions, with the right size. Now, fingers have a lot of flexibility. You can move your fingers a lot. So getting used to how the fingers look when they rotate and shift is very important if you want to get better at drawing hands. Right? Each one of them can move about that much. And it's not just movement up and down, it's movement side to side and also from the top. So if you have your finger, you can move this finger down, you can move this finger up, and you can move it to the sides. Doing little exercises like this, where you take your hand, you map it out, and then you start seeing how far you can move your fingers, is going to be a very interesting concept for you, because you're not going to question as much where to put your fingers. You're going to realize that if you put this index finger going this way, it's going to look broken, right? So you have to make your own assessment as to how much you want to move your fingers. But the overall essence is a finger and the knuckle will be the same distance as the next 2 segments. So you end up with something like that. Chunk, chunk, chunk. So that is a couple tips for you guys to draw your hands from the side. Again, if we split this in 4, you are going to have your opening for your thumb right here, and then you just got to play with a little bit of foreshortening. Your knuckle gives you the little palm bottom part, and it also gives you your sharp knuckles at the top. So that's one tip on hands, or a couple tips on hands that you guys might actually be able to use. If you're drawing something like a fist, your knuckle is just the end point of this, so you can just draw your knuckles and then just close them off. Drawing cartoon hands is easy. Just make a shape and then just make, even though it's like a Mickey hand, right? It's still based on the same concepts. Your knuckle, top and bottom. Fingers, split in half, and then another one on top. And then you have the top of your hand, and you have the bottom of your hand. So even Mickey Mouse hands are based on things like that. You know, I just put down my pencil because I don't know what to draw, but I'm going back. Hey, I'm not drawing a car. Cars take a while, and cars are just significantly like more detailed than I normally like to draw. But we can try to draw a little simple car so I can show you guys kind of how I would approach it. I would probably approach it in a way that I would map it from the top. I would draw the axles. I would probably draw the tires first. And then drawing through my shape, I would come up with the hood, the sides, and then slowly you would start building your shape based on that initial and then you would just start building your car like that, approaching it from a very flat side angle, like from just a straight up perspective. Yeah, cars are a pain in the ass, honestly. I had to do them for like a t-shirt company all the time, and I just grew to absolutely hate drawing cars. What about finger shapes? Well, your fingers are going to, like, you can range your fingers from super skinny to super fat. Like, once you understand the concept of the division process, it's just a matter of choosing what type of fingernail you want or what type of fingers you want. But that's where your creativity comes in. Like, that is where your concepts and your imagination come in, right? That's something that you're going to have to learn to do on your own. I can teach you guys where to place things. I can teach you guys the connection points and where they're supposed to be based on techniques and studying. But you are going to have to be the one that eventually takes that hand and creates something really cool with it. Because no one else knows what you prefer and what you want to do with your art. So that has to be from you. Her name's Thalia. You never see their nose. What? When you're drawing a personal animal, do you start with the head or body? I normally start with, okay, so if my drawing piece, right, if I'm going to be drawing just a profile, like if the whole concept of me drawing the animal is just based on me drawing a little profile of them, I'm obviously not going to start with the body. I'm going to start with the head. But if I'm going to be drawing a full body animal, I would draw the base body of the character first, and then I would draw the rest. When you look at someone, you never see their nose. You don't see their nose. When I draw somebody, I see noses all the time. I see a big nose. You can draw little noses. You can draw big, gigantic honkers. Right? The nose is one of the most distinguishable features of a character, like be it a human, an animal, or a monster. So if you're not looking at their nose, I don't know what you're looking at, but I love drawing noses because they're so fun for me. Yeah, noses are fun. Noses are interesting. Noses have so much complexity within a small amount of space that it's just really hard to get them down learn them. But once you understand how to at first, oh man, it's amazing. It like opens up so much personality in your characters. I need help drawing faces. Let's see. I'm trying to like really think if I want to take another hour to draw another page. Or if I just want to give you guys tips by going back and showing you guys things that I've learned. Anyways, if you want to learn how to draw faces, I learned a very interesting approach lately. I call it the butterfly approach. Okay? The butterfly approach to drawing a face takes away all the other, ooh, let's split this in half and let's draw a jaw. And it takes that away. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit because I might as well just draw a couple pages of it. So, butterfly approach to faces. Okay. So the butterfly approach to faces takes into consideration the fact that you can take any shape and add the right anatomical parts to your face by drawing a butterfly inside of your face. Having this provides you a bunch of information simply off of these little wings and spaces. So this provides you your nose bridge into your nose. This provides you your cheekbones. Actually, no, provides you your eyebrow line. The top one is your eyebrow line. This is the curvature of your of your eye. This little inner wing provides the curvature for your eye. This provides your cheekbones that guide you to your chin. And then you can map out the rest of your face by just going through the outlines of it. So if you see your face like that, it's very easy to be able to put it in perspective because all you got to do is get those wings the right way. You already know where your nose bridge is. You already know where your eyes are going to curve. You already have your cheekbones and you already have the rest of your face almost immediately from that. Now, this is not relegated to this style. If you change the shape of the butterfly, like let's make the butterfly with bigger wings, but the upper wings are a little bit smaller than the rest of it. That's going to give you a much different look than the one that you drew with a different face. So now it's just a matter of drawing different butterflies and seeing what you can do. What if they're looking down or up? Let's try it. If they're looking up, we just draw the butterfly looking up. Eyebrows, eye, nose, chin, into somebody looking up. Seems pretty easy to do, right? Looking down. Butterfly a little lower on the head. Let's draw. Seems pretty easy to me to be able to do that. I've never seen this technique before. Me either. I have never seen this done like this before. And honestly, it's fucking breaking my brain. Like I have been trying to figure out any flaws within this design process. Like just literally seeing it like this has helped me immensely in the last day or so. I went through all my old drawings and I was correcting drawings that I had done a couple years ago by simply just mapping them out like this. And it was awesome. It's so cool. to you know how hard it is to come up with something semi-original in the art teaching world. It's so hard because everybody's done everything. So thinking of something more that's actually something that I came up with, not based on me looking at other people's work, anything like that. It was just like I was almost in tears, honestly. I felt so happy. A while ago, I was practicing the process for the first time, and I made it so much progress. It was cool. Can you make it more feminine? Well, the feminine aspect of it is going to depend on what you believe is a feminine trait. So let's draw a slightly more pin-up-y face. Bigger eyelashes. Is that feminine enough for you? So remember, the butterfly approach is a very easy way to learn. It doesn't have to relegate themselves to this over drawing too. If you draw this and then you want to make it super cartoony, it's very easy. It gives you access to information that you normally don't. So your cheekbones, that is the biggest factor here because it allows you to actually map out your thing anatomically. So that is very, very cool. Hey, Marley. You want to say hi to 137 people?
Yeah. Hi.
Marley says hi. I'm teaching him how to draw faces with a butterfly. Oh. I'll teach you how to do that later. Okay? Marley says hi to everybody. Let's see. Let's draw some hair. Hello. Let's see. What else should we draw? Let's draw. Even if it's the face is not necessarily like a basic shape, right? Let's draw a face like that. As long as I have the butterfly in there, I can come up with some cool things. So this is a fantastic way to approach caricatures. Because it just provides you so much information so quick. And it's so easy to modify. I found this dream the other day. I watched a few YouTube videos and I drew my first post figure. Yay! That's awesome. That is awesome. If you were able to draw your first post figure, that is awesome. Because posing figures is normally a pain in the butt for people. Like, I think most people just don't take the time to actually understand like the concepts of anatomy and perspective. So it just makes it really hard for them to be able to move a character around. If you understand how to draw a rib cage in a simple hip bone by creating like a little butterfly thing or underwear, like a G-string, I was wondering if you could ever be able to do a plus size. Oh yeah, I can show you guys how to do a plus size model like here easily. So once you understand these two concepts, it makes it really easy to be able to modify these into any shape you want. So let's say that you wanted to make a plus size model. We'll start with a normal rib cage because people don't necessarily have different rib cages, but they do have different size hip bones. So if we were going to make someone a little bit thicker, we're going to give a little bit more width to our hip bone. We always leave a space for the crotch, and then we start connecting our body parts. Our leg comes out at an angle because our bone is shaped like this. Our bone is not straight. Our bone comes out from our hip bone and it curves back down. Therefore, it connects at the top of the hip bone, bottom of the hip bone, and then just goes like that. So that's how we draw a leg. Now, if you wanted to create a thicker leg, all you got to do is add mass to either side of your shape. You want to make it skinnier, bring in that mass to make it less fat. So, and then we have our rib cage. Our rib cage does not bend, does not flex, does not shift, does not any of that. So this is a hard surface. This one is a hard surface as well, too. And then in between here, we have a lot of space that we can do fun things with. This I call the squish zone. Okay? The squish zone can have all your fatty tissue that you want. So if you want to make someone thicker, you add volume there. You can add volume to a little bit of the sides of the rib cage and stuff like that. But that's where you normally add your volume. So let's say this guy, right? This guy, we want to make this guy with a beer belly. So I'm going to take between my hard surfaces, I'm going to add a beer belly that connects back to where my hard surfaces are. If I want to make this guy thicker, I can just make the thighs bigger and add volume to that. So once you understand the basic concept of a rib cage, your hard surface number 1, hard surface number 2, and then squish zone in between. Okay? If you do that, it's easy for you to now take these two concepts and apply maybe like an hourglass shape to it so you can have like a little pin up. Or maybe you don't want that and you want like a really strong dude, so you just make a really big rib cage and a little tiny hips, and you end up with a very strong upper body. Maybe the torso is very, very short on your character, so there's less space between here. So even things like this can change the look of the character. But once you understand the concept of hard surfaces, as in your rib cage and your thing, you can just go ahead and play around with it until it feels a little bit more comfortable for you. And then after that, you need to start learning a little bit more about anatomy. So anatomy is going to play a role when it comes down to your collarbone and your muscles that connect to your body. So your breasts or your pectorals, whatever, which one you have, right? So learning a little bit of anatomy past this stage will help you become a better designer. You don't really need to learn it but it does help a lot, right? You can design a million characters just based off, this simple concept. That concept alone will take you a lot of places, right? So you can work with that, and you can do comics. You could do, anything you really want, and base it a lot on style, and then you'll be fine. If you're a hobbyist and you're a person that just does this for fun, go for it. This is the approach that you could actually take to be able to have a lot of fun with your designs and take it to the next step. But if you're looking to make this into your art career, you need to start thinking about the extra things like muscles and how they interconnect with each other and how they connect to your base shape and how they protrude and how they look when they come out from their body, the spacing in between them so that you can actually get better at that. I would honestly suggest to people that they work out so that you can actually feel the muscle structures as you connect them. And then when you're working out, just pay attention to how your body moves, where things connect, where angles and what parts of the body actually move, what don't move, what is fixated, what is not fixated, and how you actually pursue for that. Did you take classes to learn the depth of the structures? I did not. I didn't take any classes at all to learn how to do that. You know what I did? I took things in steps. Okay. I went ahead and I started testing myself to see how much I actually knew. So I started doing things with like simple shapes like a sphere, right? Like a circle, and then seeing if I can turn that into a sphere. If I can turn that into a sphere, now I can maybe mold it by switching the shape of it a little bit. Just making oblongs, making things that are a little bit off from what a sphere is. Just getting used to deforming that shape. From there, I started learning how to take two of them and how to combine them. Right? From there, that is honestly, once you figure out how to draw a beanbag shape, once you learn how to draw this basic beanbag shape, you can draw anything you want. This very easily, very, very easily turns into a rib cage. And your bottom part, your hip bones, right? With everything you need to be able to create a character. Hey, Marley, you can feel free to come in if you want. People said hi.
Hi.
Do you guys want to meet Marley? You want to say hi to him? Say hi to the people, Marley. This is Marley. This is Vicky's son. He's an awesome animator now. He's learning. Yeah, aren't you? Yeah. And we have matching snuggies. Snuggies. Okay, back to the... They say hi. You have about 386 people looking at you. All right. So once you learn how to draw a beanbag, you can segment that and learn how to do this. This is where knowledge comes in. So you need to have knowledge of anatomy to be able to take this simple shape and make it into this. But even if it wasn't anatomy, taking something like a beanbag and making animals or little characters from them is very, very simple. Because all you got to do is learn how the shape works so that you can manipulate it to do whatever you want with your imagination and your knowledge. So that is how you kind of go about that. This is the process in which you have to learn how to make volume in your shapes. Then from that, you take shapes like cylinders and you kind of learn how to draw through them so that you can find both sides of them. Then exercises you can do is exercises like these, where you chop up little parts of a basic shape and see how it looks. I already did hands. We already did hands. We've been sketching for like 2 hours. So I already did hands. If you didn't catch it, I'm sorry. There's a hands video on YouTube that you can see. It's a 4-hour long video, and it's a challenge where I did 100 hands. So you guys can go look at that if you really want to go back and look at it. Bam. What should we draw next, Marley? You're going to be my co-host. What is something hard to draw? How about mouths? No, not characters. I don't want to draw Stitch. But since he pointed to Stitch, I'm going to have to draw the Stitch that is right. So Stitch has ears on the side of his head. He has very big, ovally eyes. He has a big mouth. And he has a little nose. And then he has his hands like, bah, 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 bah. He has his blasters and stuff. Bah, bah, bah. And he has 4 arms. Like that? Okay, so we have Stitch. Oh, wow, we have about 430 people now. All right, we have 400 people. If you guys hit this little share button right here, we go from 69 and we get to 1,000 people. We can easily get to 1,000 people if you guys just hit that little button right there. Yeah, that's 71 people. Woohoo! All right, what else should we draw? Should we teach people how to draw eyes properly? Yeah? Okay. So Marley says eyes. So we're going to draw eyes. An eye is a circle. An eye is then a sphere. Same concept as before. And then you take those hemispheres that you draw from your eye and you use those to create your eye. So you go circle, sphere, eye. Now, the openness of your eye is going to depend on where you draw your hemisphere. If you want your eye more open, you draw your hemisphere higher up. If you want this to be a closed eye, you can just draw like a little line right there. And you end up with a closed eye. But you're following the same lines from the sphere. Please post on YouTube. Okay, I'll post this on YouTube. People are so needy. We already did hands. I'm not going to go over hands again. We already did hands today. I spent like an hour on these. Next time, tune in quicker. Let's see. How do you draw robot body? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, most people don't most people don't use their foundational skills that they learned. They just assume they know them. So if you ask a very experienced artist, right, be like, oh, can you draw me, I don't know, even the same concept of an eye, right? Ask them to draw you an eye. They'll be like, oh yeah, let's draw you a really cool eye and we'll add a lot of detail and we'll draw like super awesome lines and shading and blah, 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 blah. But then you ask him to turn that and draw that as a 3/4 view or like a profile view, and they'll just be like, ugh, because they just don't understand. Marley is my co-host.
Oh, cool.
It's Rod and Marley teaches you how to draw.
Nice.
You have about 400 people in the chat. You want to say hi?
Hi.
That's Vicky. That is a beautiful woman that I came to VO here in Scotland with. But yeah, if you understand the same concept, you can just take that and apply that to the side view, so that you can actually understand what you're doing. How do you erase markings? Do you do just with pen? I draw only with pen, so I don't really erase. So what I do is I have a very, very, very interesting concept of contrasting. In order for me to sketch something out, let's just sketch a little animal or something. What animal should it be, Marley?
Pig.
A pig. Okay, we're going to draw a pig. We're going to take different levels of line work from really dark to really, really light, and we're going to essentially make these initial lines disappear. When we draw our initial shapes and our sketch lines, I do it really, really light. Right? So that whenever I go in with heavier detail, I can make those lines disappear. So the moment that I start adding extra detail, even if it's not over those same lines, those lines will eventually just disappear or get like shown more like a detail, like a shading, but essentially they become like the life force of the sketch. If you remove them and you go into your programs to clean them up, you're going to notice that your drawing does not have the same like strength or pull that you did whenever you were sketching it. So I never really remove any of my lines from my sketches, even when I'm cleaning them up. I just refine them and work on the contrasting skills. Now, am I crazy? Oh, here it is. So now when we go in and add a little bit of color, all those lines just become a secondary thing to us. And the further we go into detail, let's say we want to make the nostrils black, you end up not even seeing the initial lines anymore because the contrasting color and the lines from the darker ones just make it disappear. What book do I use to sketch? I use Illo sketchbooks, but very soon I'm going to be transitioning to Danique sketchbooks because they will be sponsoring me. So if you guys have gotten anything from the stream, make sure to go like my other social media pages. Tell them, Marley.
Do it.
See? He said it. Do it. So should they go to my YouTube channel?
Yes.
Yeah, you should go to his YouTube channel. Should they go to my Instagram?
Yes.
Yes. See? Marley knows what's best. You guys should listen to Marley. And when Marley starts his own channel, he's going to have like fans already. Oh, and then you guys get to meet Bodhi. Bodhi. You get to see Vicky's slippers. How to make my characters more expressive. Let's see. I worked on facial expressions not too long ago. Let's see. Yeah, facial expressions are a matter of understanding your eyes, your eyebrows, and your mouth. If you can understand those three elements, you can make facial expressions really, really apparent. You can make facial expressions really easy with just your eyebrows alone. But then when you add your eyebrows and you start adding different elements like your mouth, your eyes, and you understand how these elements work, that is how you're able to make any facial expression without having to require a style. So you can take those facial expressions and apply it to any sort of character you want. That being a comic book character or an anime character or a simple character, like, I don't know. I draw expressions all the time. So, even a dinosaur can have expressions. All right, so We're almost done with today's lesson, Marley. What else should we draw? Once we finish this page, we're done. Ears. Ears. Well, ears are kind of like this, right? And this is what a basic ear is. A basic ear has a ridge going around the edge of your shape. A big ridge. And then it has some stuff inside that makes it negative.
Cup of tea?
Yeah. Actually, could I just put like some hot water in the hot chocolate that I had yesterday because I forgot to drink it? Thank you.
You're gross.
I am, and I love it. So another way to draw ears would be just to make a little box and then give it the little ridge and then decide your little earlobe. You can make ears in different shapes. Especially if you're going to be cartooning, this is what I suggest, that you just come up with a really simple way of seeing it like this, but understand the concept of it so that you don't just draw through style, you draw through knowledge. How do you draw from reference? Can you answer that, Marley?
Yes.
You look at it and you draw it, right?
Yes.
That's all you do. You look at something and then you draw it. That's what using reference is, guys. It's not a science. It's not like a magical thing. It's just you look at something and you try to replicate it.
I find it easier if you start breaking it down into shapes when you're looking at your reference.
Really? So, like, if you were doing it from a picture, would you like segment it into like a little grid, or would you
No,
just?
I would just take the pictures in the picture and split it up into the natural shapes in my head.
Ah.
Looking at it, yeah.
So, okay, that makes sense. So that would also mean that you need to understand basic shapes, though, right?
Cool, I understand basic shapes then.
You do. You create awesome art. Like you know this in and out without even really understanding like that you do. Creativeness. Ah.
Take, do you want breakfast?
Yes, please.
And how do you add diversity inside profiles? Well, just learn how to draw different noses and stuff. So if we have a couple different faces, right? And we want to add diversity to it. If I get stuck to the same shape, they're all going to look the same. So let's change it up a little bit. Let's make some different shapes for the front of the face. Cool. So now we have that. We can add our little details and see what we come up with. So, it's not really hard to add diversity to your drawings. You just need to be able to break free of your initial concept of what a face is and understand that each part of your face can be different. Your eyebrows can be different. You can have accessories going on your character if you wanted to, different hairstyles. You know, it doesn't have to be stuck to that same face thing because that's the only way you know how to draw faces. Push beyond that. Robots. Just draw a basic shape and then draw like a hole in them. You have a robot. Bang. Oh, you can just put it right here. It's much easier. Thank you. She's the best around. Yeah, robots are easy. Just draw basic shapes and play with your perspective so that you can draw more things and more things and more things on them. How often do I buy a new sketchbook? I buy a new sketchbook about every 2 or 3 months, but I don't really buy them anymore because I'm lucky enough that people send them to me. So I just receive sketchbooks now. That's pretty cool, huh? And then all the extra ones just get given away to people that I think deserve to get free sketchbooks. more so people that I like follow, that I know don't have a big following, or they live in a place where they can't really have access to that sort of materials. And then I just give my excess stuff to people that really need it, because I don't really need to have more than one sketchbook at any given time. Our lesson is about to end. You guys have enough space to be able to ask for one more thing. Basic anime face. Perfect. Start with your sphere. Then divide it in half. Then use this front half to create your face. This is your eyebrow line. This is your nose, right at the edge, and then you can draw your eyes really big to get your anime look. Give it like some crazy hair. And then you have a very basic face that you can use for anime or animation, because the only difference is really that you would have a little bit less detail on the nose, your mouth maybe to the side, and your eye just stylized to look like an anime character. As opposed to if you were drawing an actual cartoon of someone, you would add a little bit more detail to the nose, you would find a little bit more roundness to the front of it, and you would just base your eyes on a different style. So the concept itself is very similar. It's just applying a different level of proportions to it. This is making me want to draw. Oh, I'm making people wanting to draw, Marley. That makes me happy. Okay, you guys have a couple more questions to fill in this little space right here. So make them good ones. I'm going to take a sip of my hot chocolate because it looks really good. Feel free to ask. And make sure it's not the same thing I've answered like 10 times already. This is all anatomy. This is all anatomy. This is not like, anatomy is not just like your body or your hands. Everything that I'm teaching is anatomy. Anatomy.
You got any questions, Tig?
Oh, I think I've answered all of Marley's questions.
Pretending to try.
Well, I drew Stitch. He asked for Stitch.
Ah, cool.
So I drew him in like 10 seconds. Okay, feet. Feet and calves. Cool. So our legs, if we draw just the bones, we would have a big bone going up onto our kneecap, right? And then here we have our ankles, and then we have our fingers. So this is a very basic bone of a foot. How do we take this and add muscle to it? Well, most of the calf muscle is connected to the back of our bone. On the back, not the middle. So if you're drawing your legs, you don't have space here and space in the front. No, this is the bone, and then you have your muscle on the back. So that is how you get used to drawing calves a little bit better. The front is the bone. You can touch it. Touch your shin, Marley. Is it bone in the front? Yeah. Is it squishy in the back? Yeah, that's your muscle. And then from here, connecting your ankle is a matter of understanding that your foot has more of a shape like this, but can very easily be replicated by creating a little pyramid and giving it a front part. So it's more like a trapezoid. The ankle connects going around it, kind of like the rib cage, right? The rib cage has this sort of like divot. This is the same thing that the ankle has. And then from there, you can use that to rotate your foot in any way you want. We already did heads. We're not doing heads anymore. And then I realized it was the bone. I legit just touched it, tested it. See, most people just don't even consider touching and referencing their own bodies. Like that's like drives me insane. The back of the foot, you have your muscle, your calf, but then your bone, your ankle bone, is right there. So you look at it like a drumstick from a chicken wing. I already did hands too, so no hands. No hands. Now we have a couple extra spaces. Let's draw the butterfly face approach one more time because that's like a really cool one. The butterfly approach to faces is an incredibly easy concept to learn. I even taught it to Luna. She was drawing actually decent faces. Luna, how old is Luna? She's your age, right? About 8? Yeah, she's about 8, and she was drawing awesome faces just from learning how to do this in like 10 seconds. The chest. The chest is just a sphere with a little divot inside. It's a rib cage. Boom, 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 boom. I have 276 videos on YouTube. That's just my streams. So if you go to YouTube, go to my links, go to my page, there's like 276 videos that you guys can just watch and listen to. Heavy character. Instead of having a little rib cage, make a thicker rib cage. And now you have a thicker character as opposed to a skinny character. And somebody asked for a cat. So we have space for a cat? Yeah, we do. A cat. There you go. You got a cat. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We actually went like 2 hours on this. 2 hours of drawing. Marty, teaching people for 2 hours. We had about 22,000 viewers, and we had about an average of 300 people in the chat. That makes it for a really cool day. Now, if you guys do want to support and you guys want to get more of the things that I do, you guys can go follow my YouTube. You guys can follow my Instagram. You guys could even buy my books. I have 3 books for sale. One of them is called Art Block, and it's all these sketches from all the previous books that I've done. And it's meant for you guys to be able to flip to a page and just be able to draw anything. Now, the other ones are Coffee Break Doodles, which is a collection of my gallery work, like my very finished rendered work. And then I have Pinups, which is a collection of very, very attractive ladies, just in a bunch of different posters, styles, and designs that I have done over the years. So 3 ways that you guys can support. So please feel free to go check it out. Thank you guys so much for subbing to my Instagram and TikTok, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Say bye to him, Marley. Oh, you gotta say it. You're like, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Marley says bye. Later, guys.